It's not my face. For sure. But I have
A what?
human.
I should have you in mind of Shira. Okay.
Chanukah Farbrengen, l'chaim, l'chaim, l'chaim. Oh, why is the fifth lichtel so special?
Last night?
No, this morning.
So
This morning? You saw them all this morning?
it's a shkocha protis, and it's in the
Which brother?
Sikha this week. If it's published here, the Rebbe says that was always a pellet to him why the fifth lichtel is so special. The Rebbe says this is inyan his yagati alov zman rav. Why is it that the Beis Rebbe says that there's a Masodus that the second time the Alter Rebbe was arrested, the Chag HaGeula was in the fifth lichtel, and that's why by Tziddim the fifth lichtel is a very special thing. But the Rebbe says Hogufa Kasha. Why is it Taka that the Alter Rebbe's Geula was in the fifth lichtel? And by Talmid of Hashem we find the fifth lichtel is something spectacular. No, the fifth lichtel. And the Rebbe says it's on page Chav Gimel over here. The Rebbe says he thought about it for a very, very long time, and the Rebbe said he realized the chap. The Rebbe says you're ruining everything. The Rebbe says that Isa b'Sidura shel Rabbeinu Hazaken, Reish Chodesh Kislev could be any day in the week, not b'Shabbos. So, because Ner Heide Chanukah, which is Chavtas b'Kislev, is the same day as Reish Chodesh Kislev. So just like Reish Chodesh Kislev could never be Chol on Shabbos, the fifth lichtel could never be Chol on Shabbos. What does that symbolize? A day that cannot be Chol on Shabbos? An unbelievable darkness. An unbelievable darkness. So when it's such an unbelievable darkness, that the native Chanukah has a koyach to transfer unbelievable darkness. And the Rebbe says that every Yom Tov has a shaykhis to Sfira. Chanukah is Sfira Sahoid. And so, and the fifth day, Hoid is the fifth Sfira. You know, always everyone's asking why the Lubavitch invitation. It's B'Shoah Chamishis. It doesn't matter if the chuppah is 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. B'Shoah Chamishis, because that was by the Rebbe's father's wedding. So Rav Heller, told me that Lanius Daitoid, Shoah Chamishis is because the Indian of Chasna has to do with Hoid. And Shoah Chamishis is Hoid. And we want Africa to be meramas in that Indian. So Chanukah, every Yom Tov Chanukah is Hoid, and the fifth night of Chanukah is Hoid Sheba Hoid, and that's why there's an unbelievable thing. The Rebbe, this is the Rebbe's word. So
that's why the Alter Rebbe went out from
Dafka
on this day.
I said I have to find something. I remember there was a story in Fafabad magazine 20 years ago.
Unbelievable story.
Oh, I said I got to find it. No, Greenwald. I got to find the story. I remember the story, but I said, I got to find it.
Yes.
I'm clicking away, click. The while I find that the Rebbe Yosef Engel, who the Rebbe adored him, the Rebbe Yosef Engel once spoke about the fifth lichtel, and he gave 36 reasons why the fifth lichtel is so special. He didn't say this reason, but he did say the reason of Hoyt Sheba Hoyt. 36 reasons that Rebbe Yosef Engel. But the veil, I'm clicking away until, and I remembered the story had to do with Warsaw, London, New York. I'm clicking, I found it. 20 years ago in the Kfar Chabad magazine, there was a Yid, Chaim Avram Greenwald. The family was from Lodz. And
this story.
They reprinted it many times.
No, in Flappers.
Oh, yeah? Okay. So, Nakuda, the story was like this. That this Yid telling a story about his father who grew up in Lodz, and his Nebuchadnezzar Yosem, and he had an uncle in Barsha, Reb Menachem Zemba, Hashem Yinkem Doma, Hagon Ha'otzam, Menachem Zemba, Machabe Sefer, many Sforim. I mean, the main thing is a Masech Shabbos, Tetzos Chaim. So he was sent to his uncle to learn. He lived in his uncle's house, and he also learned with his uncle. So uncle tells him one day that we're going to a special chasana. Would you like to come with me? The Lubavitcher Rebbe is making a chasana for his daughter. So the Rebbe's chasana was in Warsaw, and the Frierdiker Rebbe made a very, very big chasana out of it. The Dafke, he waited. He wanted to make the Rebbe was a chassan. The Rebbe didn't get married till 5 years after he was engaged. In Russia, the Frierdiker wanted to make a big chasana. He went with his uncle, the Sid, Moshe Greenwald, and he went with his uncle to the Rebbe's chasna. The next day, his uncle said that I have an invitation that Lubavitcher Rebbe invited me to come speak with his son-in-law the next day after the chasna to come to the hotel and talk to him on learning. Would you like to come with me? Yeah, sure. So the Moshe Greenwald goes with his uncle, and he says it was an unbelievable thing. He said that like the whole Shas was flying in the hotel room. They were talking Kol Shas Kula. The whole Shas was flying. At the end, the Rebbe turns to the young man. He was talking to his uncle the whole time. He turns to Greenwald and he says, "This is as soon as Chanukah. No, the Chiddush Shabbat Midrashim. The fifth night of Chanukah is a very big celebration. Do you know why?" No. And his uncle is also quiet. The Menachem Zemba wants to hear. The Rebbe says because according to the Cheshbon, the fifth night of Chanukah can never be in Shabbos, and that symbolizes an unbelievable choshech. And the koyach of the Neiris Chanukah is to break through even the darkest choshech of Golus. It doesn't matter if a Yid is in Warsaw, or if he's in New York, or if he's in London. And a Yid to break through the choshech of Golus through the lights of the menorah. That was it. And that was the end. Nebuch the Sid went through Shiva Medura Gehenim. He lost his wife. His 5 children were killed in front of his eyes. No one was left from his family. The whole Lodz was like hit really, really, really hard. The city of Lodz, the Jews of Lodz were like decimated. After the war, he came to an uncle's house here in New York, and
20 years later.
this is years later, yeah.
20 years.
This is 20 years later.
Yeah.
And the uncle was an Amshon of a Chassid, and the Amshon of the Rebbe suggested a woman, also whose parents were from Krakow, and she would manage to escape, and she was in an uncle's house in London. And the Amshon of the Rebbe was suggested the Shidduch. He really didn't want to remarry, but his uncle pushed him that they should get married. So the uncle said, you know what? I'll take you to the Lubavitcher Rebbe. I'll take you to the Lubavitcher Rebbe to get a bracha. So Greenwald goes to 770 Eastern Park with his uncle, and he tells his son, he hardly recognized the Frierdiker Rebbe. He remembered the Frierdiker Rebbe in his glory in Warsaw, and he was a young, strong man. He was Nebuch. He was, totally broken, the Gufa Benefesh. It was hard to recognize the Frierdiker Rebbe. Frierdiker Rebbe asked him about what he lived through in the war, and like a fountain of tears came out of the Frierdiker Rebbe's eyes, and he was listening to the story of what this Yid went through. At the end, he asked the Frierdiker Rebbe about the Shidduch. The Frierdiker Rebbe gave him a bracha. The Frierdiker Rebbe said, on the way out, he mentioned at the end that I saw you 20 years ago at the chasana of your daughter, and the next day I had the schus to go with my uncle, Reb Menachem Zemba, and I saw your son-in-law. The Frierdiker Rebbe's eyes lit up, and the Frierdiker Rebbe said, on your way out, you should stop in my son-in-law's office. And he stopped at the Rebbe's office, he knocked on the door, and he came in, and they told the Frierdiker Rebbe that the Frierdiker Rebbe asked that he should go. Here, his father-in-law said, and he was like with a hadis kovet, anything that his father-in-law said. And the Rebbe asked, the Rebbe recognized him right away. The Rebbe said, I heard a lot about your uncle his last few days in the Warsaw Ghetto, and there's conflicting reports about how the Germans killed Reb Menachem Hashem Yinkum Domli. I'd like to know were you there? You know the story? He said, yeah, the Rebbe wanted to hear kol prat to prat, what happened to Agon Menachem Zemba in his last few days. Afterwards, the Rebbe, huh?
It wasn't my wedding.
Rebbe Menachem was at his wedding, yeah, but and now Rebbe Menachem was at the Rebbe's wedding. The Rebbe now wanted to know what happened to the Menachem because the Germans killed him in the Warsaw Ghetto. They didn't want to know Bidiyuk.
He's a kid. Now he's 20 years later.
Yeah, and they never wanted to know Bidiyuk what happened, how the Germans killed him, what happened, and what. They never also wanted to know. There were conflicting reports of what the Menachem's opinion was on certain things. They should have uprising against the Germans. They should not. They never wanted to know Bidiyuk what happened. So the Rebbe asked him a lot of questions, and the Rebbe at the end said, "Oh, if you have a bracha from my father-in-law, that for sure will be a big bracha in your marriage." And the Rebbe said, "You know what? It's right before Chanukah, so I would like to share with you a thought. In the Siddur Shabbat Medrashim, Tamid Bashem Tov, they always make a big deal, the 5th lichtel of Chanukah. Do you know why? The Rebbe said, because according to the Cheshbon, it can never be in Shabbos. A day can never be in Shabbos is an unbelievable darkness. So the koyach of the Chanukah candle doesn't matter if a Yid is in Warsaw, a Yid is in New York or in London, he breaks through this darkness. Okay, that's it. He was like a capella to him, 20 years, the Rebbe remembers him. And they remember the Rebbe told over the same Torah.
He's coming to him, he ended up London.
So what happened was, when this Yid had, Baruch Hashem, had children, and his oldest son is getting married, and he tells his son that I'd like to get a brocha from the Lubavitch Rebbe. Son says, what, Lubavitch Rebbe? At that time, they were living in Toronto, and he was working as lurking as a rov he was in Satmar, and he was sending his kids to learn a Naitra yeshiva, even though Naitra is not Mamash Satmar, but it's in that shnit. And the son said, like, what connection do you have to Lubavitch Rebbe? Why would we go all the way from Toronto to New York? We're going to Lubavitch Rebbe. It's near Tovshin Chavtes. So
it's another 20 years.
Yeah.
They're going already 40.
So now they come to New York, and they find out it's nishposhet. You can't just knock on the door and walk in to get a brocha. He told the whole story to the mosquitoes. The mosquitoes said that there is no chance to go yachids, but if you really want just a bracha, we will allow you, 60 seconds. You go in with your son, you get a bracha, you come out, you don't speak a word. They told them the instructions, you take a note, you write your name, your mother's name, you write the date of the chasna, you ask them for a bracha, you don't talk, you hand it to the Rebbe, and that's it. They came to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe recognized him right away. And the Rebbe said to him, you came to my chasana, and you were mesameach me by my chasana. Now you're marrying off your son. I want to give you a bracha that your son, when he's marrying off his child, that gesundheit, you should dance by his son's chasana.
Oh, it's a grandchild.
Yeah, wow, beautiful bracha. Person is ecstatic. And he says to the Rebbe, I have a question. Would I be able to ask the Rebbe a question? So the Rebbe said, my father-in-law sent you to me, and I can't refuse. If my father-in-law sent you to me, I have to answer your question. So I'll see. I'll try. He said, look, I have a lot of Satmar neighbors and friends. And this is time. Can you imagine? This is in the height of things cooking over here. And the Rebbe is already starting with the Mivtzoim campaign and the Kiruv campaigns. And they're saying that this is totally inappropriate. Mesanech Hashem Esna, Miskemameches Toite, Tapnasinas Leisim. What in the business of this to be Miskabenim Rishoyim? He says it's not a disrespect. I just want to understand what the Lubavitcher Rebbe's thought on this is. So he said the Rebbe got very serious. The Rebbe said, I want to ask you a question. This neighbor of yours who's asking about Lubavitch, I want to ask you a question. If he had a daughter that went off the derech, would he cut all ties with his daughter and say, Mesanech Hashem Esna, it's also l'schaber im Rasha? Or would he try his best to bring his daughter back to the family, and he would try to keep a kesher with his daughter? To the Rebbeinu Shalom, the Rebbe paused. The Rebbe says to the Rebbeinu Shalom, every Jew is a ben yochid to the Eibishter. To my father-in-law, every Jew was mibsorcha loy tesalim. And
So when do you say you send that question?
here to the end of the story. All of this. The Rebbe said that it's before Chanukah. So let me tell you a shena word from Chanukah. Why is it that in the Tziddush Shebotim Medroshim, the fifth night of Chanukah is considered as such a special day? And Machtatish and Macht a special Zach, the fifth night of Chanukah. What's so special the fifth night of Chanukah? The Rebbe said, if you think about it, you realize that the fifth night of Chanukah can never be in Shabbos. Unbelievable darkness. And through the Chanukah candle, you break through the darkness. Doesn't matter if a Yid is in Warsaw, in London, instead of had another place, Toronto. Macht neshtois. The Neides Chanukah breaks through the Choshech. The Rebbe gave him a broch. That was it. It was the end of the Yechidus. The bell is buzzing and buzzing. It's buzzing because they were knocking on the door and saying, "I talk," and the guy. But the Rebbe said, "Don't worry." Okay, gave him a broch and he left. That was it. And this is in the year Tavshin Chav Tes. 10 years later, he's marrying off Baruch Hashem. He had children, and within these 10 years, he married off all his children. Now he's marrying off his Ben Zikunim, his last child from his second.
How many children?
Didn't say the story. He's marrying off his youngest child. It's his youngest son. The Kala is in London, and they're about to go to the Chasna in London. His neighbor came to talk to him. It's this Mr. Greenwald. And his neighbor tells him, Rahman al-Islam, a terrible thing happened. They had a fallout with his daughter. His daughter left the house. She's now in London, and she's decided she's marrying a Shegitz. She's in London, and she is living in the house with a Shegitz. And she decided she's going to marry the Shegitz. He said, "You're going now to London. Maybe there's something. Maybe you know someone in London. Maybe you could do something." So this Mr. Greenwald is like thinking, what can he do? He discuss it with his son. What kind of koyach do I have? I mean, there's obviously a lot of water under the bridge over here. A girl.
Didn't the Rebbe told him before you didn't remember that?
Yeah, exactly. So he comes to London, and by the Chassan, after Chassan Sheva Brachas, he tells his Mechutin that he has a neighbor. Nebuch's daughter is in London living with the Shegitz, and the neighbor asked him if he could help him out. So the neighbor says, "Yeah, I have a very good friend, Rabbi Avram Yitzchak Blik, who is he's a businessman, but he's a very, very strong influencer all around Europe. Shliach from Lubavitcher Rebbe, and he's been involved in very, very many complicated cases, and he has an unbelievable chush, unbelievable koyach. So let's talk to him." They spoke to Rabbi Glick, and Rabbi Glick said that he'll try his best. He got the information. He said, "I want to told her, give me the number of the parents in London, b'chulu. So I'm going to try to work on it." Okay. After the Sheva Brachas, the family decided to stay for Chanukah in London. And this is Chotonim, they're staying in London. It was on Chanukah, they get a phone call, and Rabbi Glick says, "Please come straight to my house. I have something really, a very pleasant surprise." They come to Rabbi Glick's house, and this girl is in the house, and he had an unbelievable ashpah on her. The girl decided to break up with the Shegitz, and she was sitting there, and she was in a totally different mental space, totally different place. She disconnected with the goy, and it was an unbelievable simcha. And Mr. Greenwald said that he looked up at the menorah and he counted. It was the fifth lichtala, and we remembered what the Rebbe told him. The Rebbe told him 10 years earlier, 20 years before that, 30 years before that, the day after he got married, it all came back to him, and it all clicked in his mind. He realized, exactly about like an unbelievable thing. It's like Amish, a himmeldige Zach. So he decided he has to tell the Rebbe about the story. Needless to say, that this family that he understood with the neighbor. I mean, everyone understands now that the Rebbe, in other words, Baruch Kodshe, when he said a metaphor, what if your neighbor would have had a daughter that have it? And Greenwald said that, needless to say, that neighbor had incredible Akoras Atoy and never said a word again about the mitzvah campaign and about being Neschaber Larosha, and never said anything about Lubavitch after that. Anyway, then Moshe Greenwald decided that he has to go tell the Rebbe the story. It's tough mem already. It's not easy. This is not easy to get a yechidus. But then the Maskidas, they knew him and he told them the whole story. So it was an unusual thing in tough men to get a yechidus by the Rebbe. But he was able to get a yechidus. They told him itself for 2-3 minutes. He shouldn't play any games, but he was able to have a yechidus. So he came to the Rebbe and he started to speak. He choked up and he started to cry and he couldn't continue the story. The Rebbe smiled. The Rebbe said, my schwere doch gehabt sehr weite Kopf. My father-in-law could see very, very far. My father-in-law could see so far. And when he told the story, he said that from the whole story, that the Rebbe meets a young man and could see his future, tells him 3 times a shtickle toida, the same shtickle toida, tells him a metaphor about a neighbor, and all this in 50 years, and everything connects. And at the end, when he comes to tell the Rebbe that it all, that everything matched up, mamish, exactly, the Rebbe tells him, my father-in-law had Zir Avaita cook. That the Rebbe didn't see it as something that was him, was his father. Upon him, I'm reading the Sikha. I'm reading the Sikha. Like I said, I'm reading the Sikha, and I said, "Oh wow, And that's why I searched for the story because I remember the Kfar Chabad magazine had it. It published. It was like a sensation. It was told the story 20 years ago, and now I'm learning the Sikha, and the Rebbe Taka has an unbelievable koch. The Rebbe says this in the Sikha. So I figured out, you know what, Shashkocha Pratis is 50 years Taka. And so this is a good time to Farbrengen, that we should Farbrengen the Fifth Lichko, and the Taka, we should bring in this unbelievable oil, and that the oil should have a tool on us. So like we spoke about this in Yutas Kislev, that how do we know that Yutas Kislev really works? But when Chanukah is done, the Chassidish Svarim state that Chanukah is Chanukah is the Gemar Chesima Tova. So the Rebbe said many times that what's up Pshat Chag Geula? If a person comes out from the Chag Geula and he's epis gebitten, Tishma Shalamitas with a more of a Amkis, the Beichas Hashach in the morning is with an unbelievable Gishmak or a more of a Gishmak. The Davening is mitmer Gishmak. So then we know a Yid experienced the Chag Geula. So Mismach Geula, we're talking about this in Yutas Kislev, and now this is the second Chag Geula, the Alter Rebbe, and it's Chanukah, and it's the 5th Lichku. So L'chaim, that L'chol B'nai Yisrael, Hoya Orba Meshroisen, frat by us, that should be Taka Lichtig. So sein bei uns Beruchnis und Begashmis Lichtig. L'chaim.
Amen.
The mimer. Right. But the Siddim have this thing. They like to stretch it out. Jason. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay.
Hmm. Hello? Quiet. Ist das so? Chris? Hm. Eh, awkward. Can't hear you guys. Malfunction.
The rabbi walked away. He'll be back and you'll be able to hear him, but close your mic.
Yeah, that was the other guy, but yeah, thanks.
What's it? Too much. No, it's not people. It's the worst that can
I
happen.
think we have to watch for this.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
This is don't
You have to watch.
No, that's it.
What's that?
You think, please?
Well, those are dairy, right?
That is
Those dairy
That's
are.
just
I
like-
don't know. What's the green? What is that? Basil?
hold on.
Basil? No, it's.
That's the road.
What's it called?
I don't know.
It's even. I don't know. Oh, I'm sorry.
You know that word?
No, I don't.
I don't know that word.
This looks like a.
Any turkey there? Chicken?
What's this one? Oh, that's jelly. Mm, so nice. What is this? I don't know, something green.
Papa statue.
Huh?
Yeah.
Eat it full.
Original note, but
Yeah, I gotta eat. Man, oh yeah. What's in
Mm.
Yeah.
No, no. Have to watch for this?
Yeah.
Huh?
Oh, man.
I don't know if it's really emotional or not.
So don't.
I watched it. Ate it a little bit.
Oh, you walked in.
Wow.
This is. What did you do? Left over. You want?
Is it alpha cloud?
Poi c'è stato la metro giunti.
Ah. Questo è il dove bene.
Hi.
Wow.
We.
So the most expensive donut we had.
So what is that Chanukah taste like? You get sweets? No, what? It's really okay. We'll take the time. Look out from the white. Get it. Look at the fire in here. It's high. You know. You survived.
Schneider, you're not eating anything? Schneider, these are bacon donuts.
Bacon? Wow, today fake. I want to eat it.
It's a fake and bacon.
It's a moist.
It's Mazonis.
Everything is
The sandwiches, I don't know, but
even the donuts over there that with the meat is also. I need them. I should have those.
why it's a mitzvah? Because the Rebbe Sichel brings a, according to the Rambam, it's a Sudas mitzvah. Chanukah.
Chanukah the flour.
Purim, you make one seuda. Chanukah, make five seuda.
At least they. Nobody else got it.
Oh yeah?
No, this.
Oh wow. L'chaim. I give you l'chaim?
Yeah. So what's the most in the market? Someone goes, oh, but them come on.
No, we're giving you a bracha. Mitzvah Shem, Bekod of Mamish. L'chaim.
Yeah, it was.
Good. Not bad.
On point.
Pinchas, you're not gonna have a donut with us?
No.
No? They're from House of Glatt. They're good stuff.
Don't be a geek. No, I haven't seen more chicken like that. I'll try the canine see. Let's see.
Oh, I know. It didn't fit on the plate. So that's what I'm telling you.
Oh, good. Thank you very much. So,
L'chaim.
I have mine. Wow. This one.
I went Friday to pick up some meats from House of Glatt, and I saw them advertise this stuff. So I asked Moshe, we just had about mitzvah son.
Yeah.
I said, could you make for me? He said, we ran out of it. So, yeah, I said, I'm waiting at the Farbrengen. My daughter, that's why when you came, it wasn't yet on the table, because my daughter went. He made sure to make some more today and put it in a box. So my daughter just brought it and delivered it. So they were made fresh. They were made for us. Anyway, l'chaim.
Everything, sir. You know. They're going around. I said, guys, some money. So I'm telling you, it's so expensive.
L'chaim.
This year.
I used to have a balabos years ago. Mamish knew nothing about Yiddishkeit. He used to tell me, Rabbi, every Jewish holiday, it's the same thing. Fellas, they tried to kill us. We survived. Now let's eat. So, Memes, what's the story of Hanukkah? Let's put some. So, the story of Chanukah, is a remarkable story. You read in Megillas Antiochus, you read the story, the way it's described. in Megillah in Sefer Hamakabim, Yosifun, B'chulu B'chulu. All that there's like. By the way, if you have an app, the Safari. No.
What holiday is that for?
That's boring. But if you go like this, if you have an app, a Safari app, for example, and you go, if you go, there's like a whole section. You go books of Bayesheni, and you click. If you click on Bayesheni, you're going to find that most of the books here, have to do with the Chanukah story. Okay, so Chazal didn't. They're not so authentic to us because Chazal never took it in. But in Tani Kisvei Kodesh, but there is extensive amount. The stories that we know about Chanukah have very good sources, and it describe in great detail what went on. The Yidden came back from Persia to Eretz Yisrael. They at first they had a very rough time, and even though the Persians were nice to them and let them build the Beis Hamikdash, there was incredible poverty. And over time, the Yidden built themselves up. So then there came Alexander the Great, conquered land after land, including Eretz Yisrael. He was very nice to the Jews. After he died, his empire falls apart, and there are different generals that take over big parcels of land. And this Antiochus has a big piece of land, which Eretz Yisrael is part of it. And the Jews are very oppressed. They don't have an independent government, and there's an incredible amount of oppression. We spoke about it the other night. Those incredible amount of oppression, and the Jews have an uprising. And it's mamish gebonim be'at chaloshim rabim ad ma'atim. So it was you read the description of how many horses how many elephants they have, and it was a remarkable thing. And the Maccabees have a victory. They come to the Beis Hamikdash, and they realize the Beis Hamikdash is entirely desecrated. They clean up the Beis Hamikdash, like the Rishonim bring and brought in some Mataf Rechayin. That's what's called Chanukah, because Chanukah is a Mizbeach, Chanukah is Beis Hamikdash. So true that there was a problem that they didn't have. They didn't have oil that were told, only pachechet shel shemen, and would take 8 days to get new oil. And the question that Chassidus asks in all the Mamorim, Eich also tofel iker meikar tofel. How is it possible that they took the main thing, which was it's like what we're seeing now in front of our eyes, the Yom Mahem B'zman Hazeh, we celebrate. Iran had built an unbelievable, like to try to choke Israel, an unbelievable infrastructure to choke in Israel. Rahman al-Islam, billions and billions of dollars in Lebanon through Hezbollah, and in Syria through Bashar al-Assad, and through the Hamas and through the Houthis, and unbelievable. Now this is like crumbling. And we're finding out now the tunnels and it's like unbelievable. Unbelievable. And now it's we have to see B'Yom Ha'Meim B'Zman Hazeh. So Chassidus asks a question, Eich also me'ikar tofel ma'tofel ikar. How could it be that from a terrible exodus and from incredible nitzochen, that we do nothing of it, and then from the miracle of the Pach HaShemen, we make a big deal of the miracle of the Pach HaShemen. So that's the emphasis that's really what the Gemara asks. The Gemara asks, "My Chanukah." The Gemara says that Kisha Govra Malchus Beish Chashmona B'Notzcham, that not the celebration is for the victory. The Gemara is saying that the reason of my Chanukah, Rashi says Aleiza Nes Kavua, and the Gemara answers the Kviyas of the Nes is for the Pach HaShemen. But that's really what Chassidus is asking. Hey, also ma'ikar tofel ma'tofel ikar. So Chassidus answers that you have to look at what the root of the conflict is. The Lavush, the Bach, the Taseh, and Simon Tov Reshayin, that there's two types of anti-Semites. There's two prototypes of oppression against the Jewish people. There is the Cossacks and Zeres Tach V'Tat. There is Hitler, Yimach Shemai V'Zechroi. There are those that want Haman, that want Lahashmid, Lahareg, or La'abed, Eskola Yehudim, Minar V'Zogen, Taf V'Noshim, that they're against the Jewish body. Then there is an oppression. That's what the Taz calls Gzeira Gufnis. And then what the Taz calls Gzeira Nafshis, Neshama, Gzeiris and Neshama. That what did the Crusaders want? The Crusaders wanted to convert the Jews. What did the Inquisition want? So this is a different type of it. So there's a Gzeira against the Guf and there's a Gzeira against the Neshama. What was the conflict with the Yevonim? Which one was it? So, in the one hand, if you read the Megillus Antiochus, the oppression was very strong on the Guf of the Jewish people. On the other hand, the source of the conflict was, Chazal say, that they said, that was an issue they had. What was the issue that the Yevonim had? The Yevonim were very advanced, and they had a problem with Judaism. So this says the problem was so everything. If a person goes to work, why? To make money. A person goes to the gym to be healthy. Everything you do, does to the Greeks have to make sense. When a Jew closes his eyes and kisses the Sefer Torah, what is that going to give you? You're going to be healthy through that. You circumcise your son at the age of 8. What are you doing here? So these things, Shabbos, what are you getting from this? So things that they couldn't understand it. And to them, if it was just traditions, but so that was something that they couldn't agree with. And that was the clash. That was the beginning. That's the nakud of the clash. So really, it was a spiritual clash. So even though at the end it ended up being a Gzeira on the Guf, but it was really had to do with the Gzeira and the Neshama. And therefore the Rebbe says, in this world, where do you find something that's the most spiritual, represents spirituality? Where do we see that something that represents spirituality? Candles. A candle is something that represents Kineir Mitzvah V'Toira Oir. The Minig Yisrael is that you light a Neshama candle for a nifte. That this is something that represents a ruchni. That's something that represents a ruchnius. To the Greeks, if something didn't give you a benefit, if there wasn't a tangible benefits, then what is it all about? What is it all about? They say the story with a Yosem Nebuch after the Chasna, stark erwähnt, and he said he wishes his father was there at the wedding. My father was here at the wedding. He would pay for everything. So that's the Yevonim. Yevonim, concrete. See, tell me what's the benefit? So what's the tachlis? You're Jewish. You're learning Torah. You're going to get smarter from this. You're going to be shrewd. You'll be a shrewd businessman. Okay, ich verstehe. There is traditions. You like to have traditions. These donuts are really good. It's a nice tradition. Okay. But because it's Torah Secho, couldn't understand that. There's the beautiful story that Frierdiker Rebbe tells in the back of the Lubavitch Tehillim. There's a booklet of stories, beautiful stories that the Rebbe compiled. The story of the Rebbe Rashab and his brother. That it was in the summer and they had an argument. What's the difference of a Jew and a non-Jew? So the sister told the father, who was sitting then and learning, he was sitting with a sefer, and he had like a vineyard, something that's like, to protect him from the sun. And he was sitting and learning, and the daughter said that the boys are arguing. So he said, call the boys over. They were 4 or 5 years old, and the Rebbe Rashab and his brother the Razor, they come, and they asked him, "What were you arguing about?" They said, "What makes a Yid special? Why is a Yid better than a Goy?" So they said, "We couldn't come to an agreement." The Rebbe Marash said, "I have a Yid that works for me. I have a shamish, a very important Yid. The name was Benzion. But he was a very good person." He said, call Benzion here. So they called Benzion, and the Rebbe Marash says, "Benzion, das Hein gegessen?" He said, "Yeah, gegessen." "Was du gegessen? Why do you eat?" He said, "Zu sein gesund." "Was ist zu sein gesund?" He said, "What do you mean, zu sein gesund? I have to be gesund in order to mekayim the Ratzon HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Nimmer the Torah v'kiyum ha-mitzvos." And the Rebbe gave I'm so like, I'm eating, I'm healthy, but it comes down to it. My davening is not the way the davening should be. My learning is not the way my learning should be. Ken's game. And then he says, send over the kutsher, Ivan, that the Rebbe Marash used to, was Berachvos, and he had a very fancy coach with white horses, and he had a goy that was always dressed up, tip-top, and he was a goy that grew up in a Jewish town. And he knew Yiddish. He could speak Yiddish.
Colin Powell.
Huh?
We have a few
Colin Powell, like that's like, Yiddish. So the Rebbe Marash says, "Ivan, das han gegessen?" He says, "Yeah, ich hab gegessen." "Das gut gegessen?" "Yeah, ich hab gut gegessen." "Und was hast du gegessen?" "So kennen leben." The guy knows Yiddish, perfect Yiddish. "So kennen leben." "Und was darfst du leben?" He says, "Was darf ich leben?" "Als ich lebe, kann ich haben eine gute Bottle Bromfen und gute Verbeißen. I could down a bottle of vodka and I could have some good food as a chaser, and that's why I live." And he smiled. So it was like, he was like, so the Ken's game. And the Rebbe Marash tells his children that this is the difference between a Yid and a Goy. Now you see the difference. The Goy, it's for him. It's for him. And the Yid is for the Eibishter. And the Goy noch schmeichelt. Because Medamya, he says, he's Medamya in his mind, a good bottle of vodka and a good, a herring that he's going to fress up. And he can't, he's salivating over it. Mashenkin, the Yid, so the Oimaka and the story is that he showed his children that by a Goy, it's all about me. It's about the ego. It's about the ego. It's about me. What can I benefit from this? What's the bottom line? That I go away dollars and cents in my pocket. And that's the Yevonim. And the Yevonim can't understand that by the Jews, it's not that way. It's like there was a clash. So this clash comes full circle in the fact that they're metame the shemen in the Beis Hamikdash. They didn't spill out the shemen in the Beis Hamikdash. They were metame the shemen. To spill out the shemen to them was, like they say jalke. They spill out the shemen. Why would they spill out the shemen? But instead of spilling the shemen, they were just metame the shemish. So that was something that they, that they didn't connect with. It was very hard for them to connect with this. So that's the Indian of. That's why we celebrate the Indian of. We celebrate Hanukkah. That's why Chassidus says that's a pshat my Hanukkah. Al ezen nes kavua, and the answer. So why couldn't they make a little bit of a zikoron for the miracle of the military victory? The Rebbe says, because Shmaraga Betira Maya Hani, that you can't, it's like holding a candle in the middle of broad daylight. It's nothing. There's no extra light. How could you talk about when there's an ikir and a tofel? How could you talk about, like the story with this guy, he's crying that his father's not there at his wedding. Why? Because his father would have paid to his wedding. I mean, this Hagelechte. How could you talk about the Geval of the Jewish victory, which symbolizes in oil, in the clean shaman, and how could you put that together with the nace of the Netzach and Malchama? This is the Iker and this is a Tafel. And if you mention them together, you lose sight of the whole thing. So therefore, that's what the Gemara says. That the answer is my Chanukah leizenes kavua. They were kaveya it on the miracle of the Pach Hashem, which is like a remarkable thing. That even though there was such an incredible miracle in the Milchama, but this is what we teach our children. What's the ikon in life? What's important in life? There's a story they say with the Shagas Aryeh. That the Shagas Aryeh, when he was a young man, Shagas Aryeh lived a very, very long life. Shagas Aryeh was a young man, and he was very, very sharp. And every dove he was a kihila, he was bounced. He ended up in another kihila because he could never get along with, He was a Rav in Volozhin, and Chaim Volozhin, his mother, was the wife of the Rosh Kol, so she bounced him. That he was always in odds with the first lady of Volozhin, and so he was Nebuch and Oni Be'evian and a Meduka, and they had a tiny apartment. They couldn't even stand fully in their house because your head would hit the ceiling. Reminds you of the Rambam that we learned today about the Balabayas and the Bala Aliyah, until 10 Tvochim, until the ceiling sags 10 Tvochim. Exactly. So and one night, and he was writing every night. He was writing his Chedusha Torah. And the Shagasai is like if you want to go on a Lumdisha roller coaster, you learn a shtickle Shagasai. And he gave a kreftz. And his wife said, Ayala, don't worry. The Eibishit machens machzayin git. It'll be good. Don't worry. We're living in Dachkus now. And don't worry, the Eibishit will make that we'll live berevach. So he said, my dear wife, that's not what's bothering me. I was thinking to myself that we're living such a beautiful life, such a rich life. A goy could never masik, could never have any asoga. What kind of rich life me and you live? I was thinking to myself, do I really deserve it? Do I really deserve it? That's why I gave the knecht. So that's the type of children that we want to raise. That's the union that it's an S of the Pach Hashem. It's an S of Pach Hashem. So l'chaim. That
it seems to make the Milchama and then there was just like an episode.
Good question. So we have to sing a song for that. L'chaim. It's a fifth liftel, and it's a gula v'dal terebe. So pada b'shalom. Ashimi kavli Ibrahim Kimayim Imadi Nashim Kavli What's the Yeah, Tagala, Yitain Le, Yala, Might Latag, make like Latag, Kikleata, Yata Elohim Etoidim Imes. Veyata Elohim
This one exception.
Elohim Shach. Toya Sher Yikram Dahar No, Habayetsu, Lo Yechetsu, Yebaya, Beya, Rameshem Gedom, Yed, Edom, Bim, Edom, Lo, Lo Yechetsu, Yechetsu, Yebaya, Chaim, l'chaim, l'chaim. Let me finish because to answer Shaila, then I'll tell them I said. Someone asked a very good Shaila. So, Shaila is that if you look in the words of the Tefillah, Valanisim, there is very little mention about the Ness of the Papa Shema. In fact, L'shita the Rebbe, there is zero mention about the Menorah and zero mention about the Menorah in the Beis HaMikdash. So I remember I was years ago, and I drove her out of Hirschsprung to the airport. It was LaGuardia Airport, and then I was walking him towards the plane. And I remember he was telling me he loved this word from the Rebbe to answer the Shaila of Sam Sofer. The Sam Sofer asked, "What's up, Shad? The Likuneda is Bachatzes Kachecha." What do you mean Bechatzes Kachecha? The Menorah is not Bechatzes Kachecha. It's in the Heichel. So some Sefer says that no, that Hagdloke Ksheira Bezor. But how we learned about it the other night. That ever said that maybe even a woman could like the Menorah. But how? But how is a Gzor going to go into the Heichel? You have to bring out the Menorah. Why would you bring out the Menorah, not leave it in the Heichel? Because it was full of tumah and it was full of shikuts. So what happened was that the Chashmonoim took the menorah out and they put it in a clean place, and that's why the nace happened in a place that everyone could see. Because who could see the nace besides the kohenim that are doing adlok avatov? The adlok avatov was outside, so it was so was able to see it. The Rebbe says it's a very nice pshat, but it doesn't go well in the words. It says, and then it's mashma that the pino that they, and even if you look in the Megillah Antiochus, it sounds like, in most places, it sounds like that they first cleaned up the place. And Mistaka, there is a lotion in the Megillah Antiochus, that, I'm sorry, in the Megillus Tainus. There is a lotion in Megillus Tainus that sounds a little bit that it took them 8 days. It says, the whole story. So the answer is that Chanukah Samizbech was Shiva Yomim, Bachag Zayin Yomim. Maralos Chanukah Zayin Yomim, Ela Bimei Malchus Yomim, Nichnas Beis Chashmonu Leichel, Ubonas HaMizbeach, v'sodu b'sid v'tikne b'likli shores v'misaskim by shmoina yom. It sounds a little bit like the some sefer. Even that you could say misaskim by shmoina yom means to fully fix it up or fully be mechanech. The Demesis, there is a machlokes meeting in the Rambam. The Rambam says that the Mohammed finished on Chafei. The Meiri says that the Mohammed finished on Chadalit, and the Remes is Chanukah Chafei. But there is a svara to say that some sefer has. I mean, even if they won the war on Yom Chavdalit, and one day they got the whole place cleaned up, or they had a crew of hundreds of people. So the answer is maybe yeah, maybe no. But the bottom line is, if you read the Nusach in Valanissim, it says, and then we do it. So it sounds like it was cleaned up. Why would it say bechatzas kachecha? Chatzas is lashon rabin. It was one menorah. The Rebbe is a moira de keteres. The Rebbe says that the pasuk says b'urim kabdu Hashem. And we find that in a lot of times the Bechlal and basic Knesset, the din is supposed to have a lot of lights. The pasuk says b'urim kabdu Hashem. That's why we find Simchas B'Shevet there was a lot of light. Light is the union of Kovid. When they celebrated the victory, they lit menorahs. We're not talking about the menorah in the Heichel. The menorah in the Heichel, that's where they lit the menorah. But there was vidliku neides v'chatzas kechecha is not part of Pinu Seichel. It's vidliku neides v'chatzas kechecha is part of lahoydis lahal l'shim chagadol. It's not read like before. It's read after. It's lahoydis lahal l'shim chagadol. They made urim kabda Hashem. They put a lot of lights. They put like the Chazal say by Simchas Beis Sheva that a woman could count how many beans she had in the far chotzer in Yerushalayim because the hoopla and the fireworks that were going on the Harabayis and the Beis Hamikdash. Same thing here. That was part of the celebration. So the Rebbe says, this is the word. This is the way these two words are clicking so well. The Rebbe says that's a pshat. The pshat is like this: that when you're talking about the Iker and the Tafel doesn't hold a candle to the Iker, pun intended. So the Iker in of Chanukah is that spiritual conflict that we have with the Goyim, with the Yevonim. With the Yevonim is what is about me. What do I have to say? What do I get from the deal? I don't care what I get from the deal. Was the Abish to get to the deal? Yeah. Not even like the Alter Rebbe said, it's not about me. It's not what I get out of the deal. So we celebrate that with a candle which is always jumping to go up, a candle which is in Ruchni, and with that candle you can't blend into it a little bit about the military victory because it doesn't make sense. Shiraga Batira Mayahani. How does the Tafel stand up to the Iker? You can't hold a candle to it. So therefore, when we celebrate the main thing with the Lichtalach, the Frierdiker Rebbe said that you look at the candles because the candles are telling you a story. The minute Chabad is to sit at least for a half hour and to look at the candles because the candles are talking to you. So while the candles are talking to you, you have to listen and you have to pay attention. The story that the candles are telling you is a Inyan Ruchni, how the Yid is jumping and he wants to come to the Eibishter. So this says, why is the candle jumping? Because it wants to go to the source of light, Tachas Galgal Yareach. But when you're going to get there, you're not going to be any fire. So this says the Avir, which is oxygen, is Oir Yud, because without oxygen there can't be fire. So in the oxygen is the fire. But Lepoil, when the candle goes up, Tachas Galgal Yareach, there's no fire. But the candle defekt nicht kein kashes. Because a candle wants to go to its Mokkah v'Shoyrish. A Yid is the opposite of a Goy. That's the difference of Benzi and the Goy. Benzi, he weiß nicht kein Scheiles. Sein gesund, wenn in der Eibishter. Why do you want it in the Eibishter? Are you going to get a little bit pork barrel spending a little bit? You're going to get some kickbacks? No, garnished. He wants to in the Eibishter. No kickbacks. So when we sit and we listen to the story of the Menorah, talking about Netzach and Muhammad doesn't make sense. It was an unbelievable Netzach. So that's why Chazal said, let's split it. By night, when you sit by the Menorah and you're listening to the story of the candles, let's talk about how we could jump. How we could jump and life. We could be like Rebbe, we could be like the Shagas Aryeh, that we feel such joy that we're Yidden Zainamir, Siddim Zainamir, Asheinu Matev Chalkenu, that we say, oh wow, I can't believe I have such a good life. My life is so good and so sweet. I can't believe it's so good. That's at night. But in the morning and the afternoon, we have a Sudas Mitzvah, and we're having some donuts, some fleishige donuts, L'Kovet Chanukah, and we're celebrating the victory. So then the Chazal said we should say a special tefillah only about the military victory and nothing about. And over here it doesn't make sense to mention a word about the Nes of the Pach Hashemen. Vidliku Neides B'chatzes Kachech has nothing to do with the menorah and the Heichel. The menorah and the Heichel is Eidus Hilis Leboyer Elam Shashchina Shoyda B'Yisrael, which the Eidus comes through a candle, which is light and a small little light, and it didn't give too much light, but there was a miracle. The Neir Maravi, that was a separate thing. But now here in Ala Nisim, we're not talking about Bedliku Neides B'chatzes Kachech is not talking about the menorah and the Heichel. It's talking about Neirois B'chatzrois Kachech. Rabbim, we're talking about massive amount of fireworks, massive amount of fire, and had locusts, like Lag Boimer had locusts. There was all over B'chatzes Kachech, there was fire to celebrate this unbelievable victory. So, from here there's also a lesson. Al Rebbe said that the Yid needs Gashmis. Why does a Yid need Gashmis? Because the Yid turns the Gashmis into Ruchnis. So L'chaim, and this Farbrengen, we give everyone Tzachkoyach for Farbrengen, that everyone, first of all, should be matzliach to hear the story from the candles, and every one of us that should sein lichtig bones, lichtig, beruchnisdik, lichtig, and also begashmius. First of all, B'klal Yisrael, that just we see Nisim, that we celebrate B'yom HaMeim B'zman Hazeh, that the enemies of the Yidden are crumbling, and that every one of us, there was dafa gute parnosa, gute shidduchim, so the Shesforim sagt that the Gemach Simatoiv is so is Chanukah, so soll sein Tage a Gemach Simatoiv, Gashmius, Beruchnius, Gam Yachad. L'chaim. Mention tell the story.
Yeah. A couple of years ago, this story from the father of the Shliach from Yovan. Head Shliach from Yovan, his name is Mendel Handel.
Yeah.
And now he has a brother there, Yosker Handel also. And they happen to have Sefer Torah from the Gemach. In the Sefer Torah Gemach. His father was my counselor in Kimba, he sold Montreal. And I met him by Kinnis. He tells me that the first Chanukah that he was there, he went to his Balabatim, and he told them that he wants to be able to make a public menorah lighting. What do they have to say about it? They said, it's not our style. To have in Yovan, in Greece, to have a Chanukah menorah, if they know what the significance of it. So he hit a brick wall. So God helps that the local councilman who was in the area where he was invited to some kind of conference in Germany. He was in Berlin. It must have been either the first or the second night of Hanukkah, or maybe this thing happened at the end of the fifth night of Hanukkah. I can revise this. he was invited to Robert Tachtel made this big Hanukkah celebration over there by the
Brandenburg Gate,
Brandenburg Gate.
his favorite spot. Yeah.
And he said, "Wow, this is great stuff." So he comes back to Greece. He calls up the rabbi. He says, "How come we don't have something like that?" So the center tells him, "I'm having difficulty getting a permit. Could you help me?" He says, "Sure." So he got him a permit. So you can't make up this story. In Yavan, got him a permit that he should be summon about about the Ness of Hanukkah in Yavan. In Athens, it was in Athens.
Wow.
And from where? Because of Germany. You know about Taft? There's menorah.
It shows you.
Just have to warn us. So this is the way it's going. I wanted to say it here.
So we should ask it. Jim, it's a jump.
Yeah.
It's a jump. No, not yet.
There's a little service. It's not the mess.
Wohin kam das denn? Ein, ja, ma. That says because the third is not the eighth.
Versus my Hanukkah song that was singing about the war.
Alles in das Kapur. It's just saying it's
And Rashi says, our niece, but our niece knows even the best song.
right. That's what the Rebbe says. It's two different things. This is for the Muhammad.
The Gemara only said, the Gemara doesn't say, but it's actually.
Because the Gemara was only talking about Eis and Nes Kavua.
Right. So how many could there?
But that wasn't
With
part of
Alanisa. Okay, here I am. Asia.
Parrots. Do we have any wine? No. Grape juice, anything? Do you, huh? Oh, L'chaim, David. Okay, give the coin to bench. You want? Okay, fine.
I watched.
This is
I
on
wash too. So how many people do we have here?
L'chaim on wine.
Okay, good enough. So dus machen the Zimmel.
Share, I'm all in show, then it's Zoom over gate, you know, then it's
Anybody?
הבוי שם מבין בנצ'י. יש שם עדיין בפעד ודברים שמות מה מסנה בואו שחלם שלו. בואו שחלם שלו. בואו חיינו בואו חיינו. חילום. בואו שמע גדול כאילו. It's fun to tell
Ehrlich scheiße, jetzt ist der Chanukah somewhat.
Okay.
What's the matter?
Yeah.
Yevanim was against Shabbat, right? And Chodesh. So then, it's a chorus of Sunday.
Yeah, everyone's down now.